Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take that huge stack of professional source material, all the research, and really just boil it down for you. We want to hand you the keys to what actually matters. And today, wow, we are focusing on a leader whose impact is so profound, it's often called a corporate miracle.
Oh, it really is. And when we talk about magnitude, we're not just talking about a company turnaround. We're talking about a fundamental, a structural shift in the entire global semiconductor industry.
Yeah, Lisa Su, she's the president, chair, and CEO of AMD.
And she didn't just stabilize a struggling company. She pulled off one of the most incredible long-shot turnarounds in modern history.
Absolutely. We see so many executives who are brilliant at finance or maybe marketing. But what the sources show is that Sue's story is different. It's rooted in decades of deep foundational engineering expertise.
She's one of those rare leaders who you feel genuinely understands how the electrons flow.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the numbers are just staggering. They really show the value she unlocked.
When she took over as CEO back in 2014, AMD's market cap was, around $3 billion?
A worrying $3 billion.
And today, under her leadership, it's soared to over $200 billion.
That's not just growth. That is a complete reinvention.
Total Phoenix story.
And it's more than just a resurrection. It's a true David versus Goliath victory. The single biggest metric of her success has to be this one.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
During her tenure, for the very first time, AMD actually overtook its massive, longtime rival, Intel, in market capitalization.
Which just wasn't supposed to be possible. Intel was the permanent giant. AMD was the permanent underdog. And suddenly, they were winning the race.
It completely changed the game, the entire competitive landscape for processors worldwide.
And that blend you mentioned, the technical know-how and the strategic vision, that's why she's not just a historical figure. She's deeply, deeply contemporary.
Right. And the sources point straight to that. She was named one of the architects of AI for Time's Person of the Year in 2025.
That title, Architect of AI, that says it all.
It really does. It cements her role in shaping the current technological age we're living in.
And it perfectly connects her earliest work, in device physics, directly to the biggest challenges we face today, where power and efficiency are everything in the AI race.
So our mission for you in this deep dive is to really understand that connection. How did deep, fundamental engineering competence become the ultimate weapon in the boardroom?
Okay, let's unpack this.
Specifically, let's trace that competence. How did a background in experimental, really foundational engineering pave the way for such a massive industry shift?
And to do that, you have to start right at the beginning.
Right, with the foundations, her early life, and that relentless pursuit of engineering excellence.
So Lisa Fang Su was born in Tainan, Taiwan, November 1969.
And she wasn't there for long. She immigrated to the U.S. with her parents when she was just 3 years old.
Settled in Queens, New York City. And that immigration context, it so often shapes the kind of drive and ambition we see in leaders like her.
It really does. And the sources emphasize that the environment at home was, it was rigorous, but also incredibly supportive.
You had this amazing blend of influences. Her father, Su Chiwei, was a statistician.
So you get that connotative, analytical mindset right there.
Absolutely. And her mother, Sandy Lowe, started as an accountant, but later became a successful entrepreneur.
So he's getting the business side, the risk management from her mom. That's a powerful combination.
It's a rare mix. The precision of a statistician and the market sense of an entrepreneur, all at the dinner table.
And the sources say both she and her brother were just pushed relentlessly to study math and science.
She's told stories about her dad quizzing her on multiplication tables when she was just 7.
Just 7. So those fundamentals were being drilled in from day one.
Meanwhile, her mother is introducing her to business concepts, so she's getting this dual perspective from a really, really young age.
And that blend, it's so telling when you look at her later career.
It really is. It fostered this innate curiosity that seems to be the main driver for her, more than just, financial reward.
The engineer's curiosity. That's what really stands out in the sources.
Yeah, she said she wanted to be an engineer simply because she just had a great curiosity about how things worked.
It wasn't about the job title or the status. It was about taking things apart to see the core mechanics.
And we see that play out literally. There's this great anecdote about her at age 10.
Taking apart her brother's remote control cars.
And fixing them. It's a perfect little metaphor for her entire career, right? Analyzing a complex, broken system and methodically finding the flaw.
And then her first computer in junior high was an Apple II.
The classic. So she got that early hands-on exposure.
All that curiosity led her to a very competitive high school. She graduated from the Bronx High School of Science in 1986.
Which is, I mean, it's known globally for its intense focus on STEM. It's a feeder school for top tech universities.
And that's where she went next. A logical but very difficult jump to MIT in the fall of '86.
She was initially thinking about either electrical engineering or computer science.
But her final choice is so telling. It really reflects this pattern in her life of always picking the biggest challenge.
She settled on electrical engineering, and her reason was that she thought it seemed like the most difficult major.
Who does that? It shows this character trait, right?
Yeah.
She gravitates toward the hard problems, the places with the most friction.
Because that's where the real innovation and the real risk is.
And her time at MIT, it wasn't just sitting in lectures. She got critical hands-on experience through the UROP program.
The Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program.
And this wasn't theory. She was an undergraduate research assistant, physically manufacturing test silicon wafers for grad students.
Which might sound tedious, but for you, the listener, you have to understand how fundamental that is.
Right. She wasn't just reading about semiconductors. She was in the clean room doing the meticulous work of creating the very foundation for chips.
That practical work, plus some summer jobs at Analog Devices, that's what cemented her interest in this super complex world of semiconductors.
It pointed her directly toward that intersection of materials science and electrical engineering.
And that path leads directly to her doctoral work from 1990 to 94. And this is where she makes a really crucial early technical bet.
Yes. Her PhD work focused on a technology that was foundational, but at the time, completely unproven.
Under her advisors, Dmitry Antonaitis and James Chung, her research was really on the cutting edge. She was one of the very first researchers anywhere to investigate silicon-on-insulator technology.
Or SOI.
Exactly, SOI.
And that might sound like a bunch of jargon, but it's so important for understanding modern chip efficiency.
It is. The sources explain that SOI was this unproven technique. The goal was simple but brilliant. Make transistors way more efficient and faster by isolating them.
So a standard transistor is built right on the silicon wafer.
Right. And when current flows through it, some of that electricity can leak away into the silicon underneath. It wastes power and it creates heat.
But SOI introduces an insulating layer-like silicon dioxide between the transistor and that main silicon substrate.
Think of it like a dam. It's a barrier. It stops that leakage, which engineers call parasitic capacitance.
And the result is that the transistors can switch much faster and use way less power.
Her whole dissertation was on this. Extreme submicrometer silicon-on-insulator MOSFETs. So she's deep in the physics of efficiency at the tiniest scales.
And here's where we connect the physics to the strategy. She wasn't just studying some established process. She dedicated years of her life to an unproven technique.
And that's a template for how she manages risk later. You know, betting the company on a new architecture like Zen, that's only possible if the CEO truly understands the science and the potential payoff of an unproven technology.
SOI taught her how to manage that kind of high-stakes technical uncertainty.
And that deep conviction, it fueled her professional career, starting right away in 1994.
Which brings us into part two. This is the era of her big technical breakthroughs and then that quick transition into management. Her time at Texas Instruments, IBM, and Freescale.
She starts at Texas Instruments in '94, right after her PhD. A member of the technical staff at their Semiconductor Process and Device Center.
A classic, deeply technical first job.
But she moves fast, jumps to IBM in 1995 as a research staff member, specializing in device physics.
And in just a few years, she's appointed vice president of IBM's Semiconductor R&D Center. A huge step up.
Her 12 years at IBM, from '95 to 2007, were really defined by solving maybe the single biggest materials science challenge in semiconductors at the time.
The copper problem.
The copper problem. It's such a great corporate story because it's a materials science paradox.
Okay, explain that.
Well, for decades, the industry used aluminum for the tiny wires, the interconnects that connect all the transistors on a chip.
And aluminum worked fine.
It worked. But copper is so much better. It's a better conductor, which means you can run chips at much higher speeds. The whole industry was desperate to switch to copper.
But there's a catch.
A huge catch. The materials science was a nightmare. Copper, while faster, was also incredibly reactive.
It was a contamination issue, right?
A fatal contamination issue. If even tiny bits of copper touched the sensitive silicon, it could completely and irreversibly destroy the chip during production.
It's like trying to build something delicate with a tool that melts everything it touches. A massive paradox.
And she played a critical role in developing the recipe to make it work. It involved creating new barrier materials and processes to basically quarantine the copper and stop it from spreading.
And the result was revolutionary. IBM launched the copper technology in 1998. It set a whole new industry standard.
And yielded chips that were up to 20% faster than the old aluminum ones. A clear, quantifiable leap in performance, all driven by her team solving that foundational materials problem.
What's really telling about her mindset here is a quote from the source material.
I think I know the one.
She wasn't an expert in copper to begin with. She was an SOI expert. But she said she migrated to where the problems were.
That's it. That's not just being good at your job. That's strategic problem solving. It's about finding the biggest bottleneck for the entire industry and just attacking it.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This is the transition from pure technical genius to executive leader. After proving herself on the copper problem, her career path shifts hard towards management.
A key pivot. In 2000, she gets this critical assignment as the technical assistant to IBM CEO, Lou Gerstner.
Which is always a proving ground. It's a fast track to see how the business side of tech actually works from the very top.
And right after that, she goes from being an indispensable engineer to an entrepreneurial manager. She becomes the head and founder of the emerging products division at IBM.
She was essentially told to run an internal startup.
Right, from scratch. She hired just 10 people to focus on new high-growth areas, biochips, and more importantly, low-power semiconductors.
And she was, in her words, basically director of myself at the start. She had to convince IBM to invest in these risky new technologies.
And their first product worked. It improved battery life in phones and handhelds, showing there was a real market there.
That work got recognized almost immediately. MIT Technology Review named her a top innovator under 35 in 2001 for it.
And her IBM years also included this massive, high-profile collaboration that basically shaped the future of gaming.
The cell microprocessor.
Yes, she represented IBM in that partnership with Sony and Toshiba.
And the goal was just audacious. Ken Kutaragi, the father of the PlayStation, set the target.
He wanted to improve game processor performance by a factor of 1,000.
1,000. It was a nearly impossible jump that meant they had to throw out conventional chip design.
And her team came up with this innovative architecture, a 9-processor chip.
Which became the legendary cell microprocessor that powered the PlayStation 3.
So think about that experience. Managing radical ambition, impossible technical constraints, high-stakes corporate partnerships.
All skills she would need later when she had to bet AMD's entire future on the Zen architecture.
Exactly. She mastered device physics, and then she mastered the politics of multi-billion-dollar R&D.
So after becoming a vice president at IBM, she makes a big move in 2007 to Freescale Semiconductor.
And at Freescale, she really cements her identity as an executive and a turnaround expert.
She joins as CTO, heading up R&D, and later becomes a senior VP and GM of their networking and multimedia group.
This role pushes her even further from pure research and into P&L responsibility for a major business unit.
And the move showed her skills were transferable. The impact was clear enough that EE Times credited her with helping Freescale get its house in order.
She was putting the technical and structural pieces in place that led to their successful IPO in 2011.
So by the time she leaves Freescale, she's navigated 3 huge different corporate environments.
Always moving up from technical problem solver to strategic group leader, she was primed for the biggest challenge of her life.
Which brings us to the moment that changed everything. Her move to the struggling, debt-ridden advanced micro devices.
Part 3. The AMD turnaround strategy from 2012 to 2016. This is the core of the story.
She joins AMD in January 2012 as a senior VP and general manager. Right away, it's clear she wasn't hired to maintain the status quo.
No, she was there to execute a strategic change because the company was, and this is not an exaggeration, on life support.
They were financially fragile, way behind technically, and completely dependent on the PC market.
Which was collapsing because of the rise of mobile. If they stayed tied to the PC, they were going to sink.
So the sources say she immediately played a prominent role in pushing AMD to diversify.
That was job one, applying that emerging products philosophy from IBM. If your core business is dying, you have to innovate in new markets.
And the critical wins here were the game consoles.
This was just strategic brilliance. She worked directly with Microsoft and Sony to get AMD chips into the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4.
And that wasn't just about revenue. It was a high-volume contract that gave them stable cash flow.
It was a lifeline. It allowed AMD to survive long enough to actually fund the development of their next-generation CPUs.
And that shift was stunningly fast. When she joined in 2012, non-PC sales were about 10% of AMD's revenue.
And by early 2015,
It was roughly 40%. She took them from total reliance on a dying market to a diversified revenue base in just 3 years.
that success proved her strategic ability to the board, and it proved to the market that she knew where future growth was.
Which led directly to her appointment as CEO in October 2014.
And when she took over, her plan sounded simple, but it was incredibly high risk. First, focus on the right technology investments.
Second, streamline the product line. Get rid of distractions.
And third, accelerate the development of new technology.
Let's stick with that first point, the right technology investments.
That meant one thing, betting the entire company on a brand new microarchitecture, Zen.
Which required huge R&D costs at a time when AMD could least afford it.
This was not about quick fixes. It was a long, painful restructuring focused on patient R&D, exactly what she learned at IBM.
In 2015, they laid out the strategy. Focus on high-performance computing and graphics for 3 growth areas.
Gaming, which they already had a foothold in. The data center, where they had almost no presence.
And immersive platforms. The future.
The data center focus was the big one. That market was exploding, and it was completely dominated by Intel. To even compete there, they needed something revolutionary.
And the technical foundation for that comeback started being laid in 2016. She announced they were working on new FinFET-based chips.
This was it. This was them building the core Zen microarchitecture that would either save the company or bankrupt it.
They are betting everything on being able to deliver a fundamentally better chip than a rival that seemed untouchable.
And remember, Intel was massive, stable, deeply entrenched everywhere. To challenge them, AMD didn't just need a good chip.
They needed a chip that was demonstrably faster, cheaper, and architecturally superior.
And that requires incredible conviction from the CEO, knowing the payoff might not come for 5 or 6 years.
But the market started to respond even before the chips arrived. AMD stock spiked in July 2016.
Fortune directly attributed that to her execution on the comeback plan. The market believed she could deliver the technical goods because of her track record.
Because of the copper problem, because of the cell chip. Her credibility, built over decades in the technical trenches, was now paying off on Wall Street.
It was a signal of confidence that management could actually execute this revival, not just talk about it.
Which brings us finally to part 4, the payoff, the Ryzen era, market dominance, and all the recognition that followed from 2017 to today.
This is where the seeds planted during the turnaround finally, spectacularly bore fruit.
The launch of the Zen chips, marketed as Ryzen CPUs, started in the second quarter of 2017. This was the moment of truth.
And the success was immediate and incredibly disruptive.
Post-launch, AMD CPU market share just surged. It hit nearly 11% quickly and just kept climbing.
But it's not just the market share number. The products themselves were genuinely competitive, in some cases far superior.
Ryzen got amazing reviews, specifically for hitting 2 things Intel was struggling with at the time.
High thread count, so more processing capability and prices that were way lower than Intel's.
For consumers building high-performance PCs, AMD suddenly had a much better value proposition.
And this was partly AMD's brilliance, but it was also partly Intel's stagnation. They'd been making small, incremental improvements and got stuck on their manufacturing process.
It left a window open, and Ryzen just blew it off the hinges.
And Sue didn't just stop with consumers. She immediately drove AMD back into the high-performance market with the Threadripper workstation processors.
Which was a critical move. It grabbed the attention of the most demanding users, developers, engineers, data scientists who set the tone for the market.
So, with the core CPU business revived, her focus pivoted again toward the most lucrative future market, the data center and AI.
Which led to a massive consolidation move that redefined AMD's future.
The acquisition of Xilinx in February 2022 for a reported $49 billion.
This was a huge statement. AMD was no longer just a CPU and GPU maker. They were a full-stack, high-performance computing company.
And for you, the listener, we need to break this down because FPGAs, field programmable gate arrays, are essential for modern AI.
So why spend $49 billion on a company that makes these programmable chips?
Because traditional CPUs and GPUs have fixed architectures. FPGAs are different. Their internal circuits can be completely reprogrammed after they're manufactured.
So you can optimize them for a very specific task.
Exactly. And in AI, where algorithms change every single month, that flexibility is priceless. They offer super low latency and customizability for data center and AI workloads.
So this acquisition gives AMD a critical asset for winning massive contracts in AI and other specialized fields.
And it directly enables her 2025 recognition as an architect of AI. It means AMD now controls the full stack, from fixed CPUs and GPUs to flexible FPGA accelerators.
After that deal closed, she formally became the chair of AMD's board, consolidating her vision for this new massive entity.
And of course, that level of success brings incredible personal financial recognition.
She was famously the highest paid CEO on the S&P 500 in 2019. Her pay package was $58.5 million.
And it's important to connect that to the bigger picture. That massive number was mostly a stock reward tied directly to the exponential growth of AMD's valuation.
It's the market rewarding the value she created. She took a $3 billion company and turned it into a $200 billion powerhouse.
The financial reward is just a mirror of that shareholder value creation.
And the awards followed. Not just financial success, but deep respect from her peers in the industry and academia.
There are too many to list, but a few really stand out.
Like being named Executive of the Year by E-Times in 2014, right at the start of the turnaround. That shows they saw the potential immediately.
But the most important one, for me, connecting back to her roots, came in 2021.
She became the first woman to receive the I.E. Robert N. Noyce Medal,
Which is one of the highest honors in the entire semiconductor industry. It confirms that her peers recognize her original technical contributions, the SOI and copper work, just as much as her business success.
Her election to the National Academy of Engineering in 2018 is another nod to that technical foundation.
And now her influence is global. In 2025, Forbes named her the 10th most powerful woman in the world.
We should also mention the recognition that goes beyond the balance sheet. In 2022, she was an International Peace Honors honoree.
For her work donating supercomputing power for infectious disease research during global health crises.
It ties technical excellence to real societal contribution. It's no wonder MIT chose to honor her.
That's right. In 2022, MIT named its new nanotechnology research building, Building 12, in her honor.
Think about that. She starts as an undergrad making test wafers in a lab, and now the entire nanotechnology building is named after her.
That is the definition of coming full circle. It permanently links her legacy to the foundational science she mastered.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's touch on some personal context and a fascinating little connection that adds some color to this whole story.
Part 5. The human context behind the corporate drama.
Lisa Su is based in Austin, Texas, with her husband, Daniel Lin. And the sources mention an interesting habit she picked up after becoming CEO,
She started boxing regularly with a trainer.
which you often hear about with highly driven executives, right? It's not just a workout.
No, boxing requires intense discipline, quick reactions, mental toughness, all qualities that mirror her corporate strategy against Intel.
And as of 2024, her net worth is over $1 billion, partly thanks to the generative AI stock boom.
Which just reinforces that her big strategic bets like buying Xilinx position AMD perfectly for the AI era.
But now for the most compelling piece of trivia in the sources.
The family connection.
The family connection. Nvidia co-founder and CEO Jensen Huang is her first cousin.
It's an incredible detail. The source clarifies the relationship. Su's maternal grandfather is the eldest brother of Huang's mother.
So let's process this. The leaders of two of the biggest rival semiconductor giants on the planet.
AMD and Nvidia. The company's literally building the infrastructure for AI, for gaming, for the modern data center.
Our first cousins.
It adds this whole other layer to the intensity of the industry. Their companies are in constant competition, and that rivalry literally runs through the family tree.
Imagine those holiday dinners. It just perfectly encapsulates the high-stakes, fast-moving world of Silicon Valley power.
And finally, we should note her ongoing involvement at the industry policy level. She sits on the board of the U.S. Semiconductor Industry Association.
So her trajectory is complete, from deep academic research to operational excellence, corporate revival, industry leadership, and now policy guidance.
It's time for the synthesis. Lisa Su's journey, it just demonstrates that deep foundational technical expertise from SOI to copper interconnects. When you combine that with a bold strategic vision, that is the formula for corporate transformation.
She went from solving intricate device physics problems measured in submicrometers to solving monumental business challenges, measured in tens of billions of dollars.
Her ability to diversify AMD away from the PC was only possible because she understood the technical architecture needed to win in gaming and the data center.
She knew exactly what AMD's technical flaws were, and she knew what kind of massive existential bet was needed to create something completely new like Zen.
You cannot lead a true technical revival without understanding the technology at the component level. And you need the conviction to stick with that R&D plan through years of financial pain.
And that conviction, born in her MIT days, is what allowed her to make those long-term bets that eventually resulted in the overwhelming success of Ryzen.
She wasn't hoping a new marketing campaign would save AMD. She knew only superior physics could do it.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener.
Her early work, her esoteric PhD research, was all about making transistors more efficient using silicon-on-insulator technology. A deep focus on maximizing performance while minimizing power leakage and waste heat.
So now, considering her recent recognition as an architect of AI, which is the most demanding, power-hungry technology of our time, what stands out to you about how that decades-long focus on fundamental efficiency now directly enables this global computational hunger?
It shows how a 10-year-old's curiosity about how things work can eventually drive the entire infrastructure of global computation decades later.
It's the ultimate lesson in foundational research and patience. The esoteric physics work of yesterday is not just academic.
It's the trillion-dollar infrastructure of tomorrow.
Exactly. That's it for this deep dive. Thank you for joining us as we unpack the incredible career and strategic brilliance of Lisa Su. We'll see you next time.